Joining us now, Democratic Congressman of Maryland, Anthony Brown. He's a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thank you for joining us this morning. What are you hearing about the impact and the consequences of the shutdown in your district?
Well, first of all, not only am I hearing it, but I'm seeing it every day. I've got the 5th largest number of federal government employees and federal contractors, and the impact is beginning to devastating on these families. We have federal government employees who are being required to work without pay. Many of them are deciding that they can no longer do that because they're having difficulties paying daycare for their children in order for them to go to work. They are literally faced with a condition where they can't fill up their gas tank or pay the note on their car, their mortgage, or their rent. Remember that, many federal government employees, not unlike most Americans, live paycheck to paycheck, and if we don't open government tomorrow, and the president can do that, if we don't, they'll see a zero-pay paycheck this Friday. That will be 30 days without pay.
Well, he may not. So what is possible? What is possible in the area of negotiation between the Democrats and this president and Mitch McConnell? What is possible to end this shutdown?
First of all, the ball is not only in the president's court, it's in his hands. And he has to open up government immediately. When he does, we will be able to sit down and engage in fruitful, productive, and probably lengthy discussions around immigration reform, including border security. His position is anchored, continues to be anchored in a $5.7 billion wall. That's not our position, but more importantly, that's not the position of the American people. The American people reject a wall. But so we'll negotiate around border security, around DACA, the Dreamers, TPS, whether we have to increase the number of immigration judges, which we do, how we incorporate technology at the border, reminding the president that the border is not just the southwest border, it's the Port of Baltimore and Los Angeles, it's O'Hara Airport in Chicago, airports in Fort Worth, Dallas. That's the border of America. So we'll have negotiations.
I understand that, and I understand the position on the wall and the position of most of the American people on it, but is there any way to give him the money for the wall and get something in return that then also could end the shutdown?
Remember, Democrats and Republicans already agreed last year $1.3 billion for border security. At the end of the day, what we're trying to achieve is border security. And if that can be accomplished, like experts say, with the use of technology and surveillance and more customs and border agents, with some physical barriers, enhanced physical barriers, then let's do that. Let's have the negotiation. Quite frankly, let's literally take out the map and from coast to coast look at what the security needs are across the border. But that's going to be a lengthy process, and you've got to open up government. President Trump must open government. 800,000 federal government employees are suffering because he won't.
Yamiche.
Congressman Brown, I have a question about the White House's strategy here. I was in a meeting with Vice President Pence where he said that the White House officials have been talking to rank-and-file Democrats to try to see if they essentially can pick off some of the support from Nancy Pelosi and get people to break with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Do you get any sense that there will be Democrats who will side with the president over this proposal?
Look, I think the president mischaracterized the involvement of Democrats at this point. He had some rank-and-file Democrats visit the White House. He then, 2 days ago, said that his position was a compromise position among Democrats and Republicans. Democrats, but more importantly, Americans reject the wall, particularly in the context of a federal government shutdown. So what I anticipate is that Democrats should and will negotiate with Republicans. It will be difficult discussions and negotiations. The president wants a wall. That's not our starting position. We can agree on DACA and the Dreamers and TPS. But again, you've got to open up government, because with government closed, it's like negotiating with a gun at your head.
Congressman Hayes.
John Hammond.
Here, let me ask you this question. So let's stipulate the following things are all true. First, that the way in which this, quote, negotiation was conducted was not really a negotiation. Okay, so that's fair. Let's also stipulate the idea that the concessions that you all, Democrats, would accept would be temporary fixes to problems that the president, in fact, created on DACA and on TPS is never going to fly. But let me ask you, if the sequencing was right and and the president was willing to open the government up for a limited period of time and then engage in this negotiation in order to try to find a permanent solution, would it be at least a starting point for a negotiation if the president said, I'll give you permanent relief on DACA and permanent relief on TPS, but I got to have my $5 billion for my slats, which is going to be, it's not really a wall anyway, and it's not going to cover the entire southern border. Would that at least be a place that you guys would be willing to start to have that kind of a conversation?
Well, certainly if the president is talking about a permanent solution, a permanent fix on the DACA situation, which, by the way, he created, also temporary protective status, which he has created, then that's a step in the right direction on his part. Again, whether or not we, what the contours are of border security, the American people, again, they're firmly opposed to a wall. Physical barriers, which currently exist, there are pedestrian barriers, there are vehicular barriers along parts of the border, is one thing, but a solid wall, whether it's concrete or the president now is talking about metal slats, that's problematic. But the most important thing is open up government. We then begin to have serious negotiations and dialogue as we resolve this situation.
So, Congressman, we looked at the impact so far, even in your district, which is real and extremely large, on the workers who are furloughed. We've talked about what you think the president should do, but what happens if this Friday these furloughed workers get another paycheck with a zero on it? What happens?
Families continue to wake up with a great deal of uncertainty, financial stress, and this is devastating. This is the first time in our nation's history when men and women who put on the uniform and are on watch for our country, and that's men and women today serving in the Coast Guard, are doing so without getting paid. And the sad irony of all of this is that the president has shut down government in the name of Homeland Security when the largest impacted department due to this shutdown is the Department of Homeland Security. It's our TSA agents who are at the airports. It's our customs inspectors at our seaports. It's the U.S. Coast Guard. So this shutdown also negatively impacts Homeland Security. So this is a tragedy. The president could open the government tomorrow. He could open it today, quite frankly. All he has to do is tell Mitch McConnell, take a vote on what the House sent you. I'll sign it. We'll start negotiations.